Hi, Jeremy here, Modern Vitality. In today's video, I'm going to share with you if I was sick, bedridden, exhausted, and basically felt like all the systems in my body were breaking down, here's exactly what I would do to get my health back. All right, let's get started. So what most people do is go to their doctor, which is a good idea, right? This channel is not medical advice, and you need to make sure you have a health professional that's on your case and ruling out any kind of red flags, right? You want to make sure all the serious conditions, anything life-threatening, all that's been addressed so you can figure out if there's something that requires a massive intervention right away, right? Do that, of course, it's the responsible thing. Now, once you slip through the cracks of the medical system, okay, you're kind of on your own. It's a bit of the Wild West out here. And I've said this before, but the medical system obviously isn't perfect, and it's not going to do this for you. We have to heal ourselves. My job, right, with the world I create, our group, my programs, like all these things, it's to empower the individual to do that as effectively as possible, to get you from rock bottom, whatever that looks like, back to a normal life and maybe even a more thriving kind of life where you're a little more optimized, healthier, more robust and resilient, more energy and all that. It's possible, right? It's doable. You can see the changes in the eyes even, where people go from sick at the bottom and you can see the eyes are dark and there's a lot of darkness underneath and puffiness and not a lot of life, not a lot of luster, right? The shine's gone. You can get that back. It's pretty wild. So that's my job, right? But if I was bedridden and broken and I was at kind of a rock bottom, here's what I would do. Of course, ruling out any severe like red flag or life-threatening kind of condition. The first thing I would do is I would take a mental assessment of all the things that I want to live for, right? I would start to look at everything. And I know this gets really hard when you're in that kind of place because and this is exactly why you do it, is because your future starts to become more blurry and it's harder to project into the future. Right? That starts to disappear and fade. And that's normal. That's what happens in these cases. But the first thing I would do is start to carve that back out, meaning I would literally with a paper and a pen, like write down the things I'm living for, right? For the future, what I want to achieve, what I want to do, how I want to feel, the people I want to be there for, the places I want to travel to, all of it, right? And get it down there and have, you can make a vision board if you want, something like that, whatever it is that kind of exemplifies these ideas of the future for you. And I would have that immediately done and get it up on a wall somewhere I can see it. Because on those days when things get really dark and dismal, I need a visceral reminder of how important it is to stick around on the planet. Okay, motivation, number one. I would get that sorted out. Okay, I can't overstate how important this is because unfortunately, right, when your body starts to kind of shut down in different ways, a lot of the mental and spiritual faculties start to shut down too, and our ability to project into the future tends to go. Now, the good news is going through a healing process, and if you're at all familiar with my work, stages 1, 2, 3, 4, right? When we do this, there actually is an interesting reversal of that. And usually by stage 4, people are starting to have a future again, where they're starting to it's more easy for them to visualize what they want to do, and they're more bold about making plans, and they feel more confident and comfortable committing to things because they don't feel like their body is so unreliable, right? Which that's a faculty of actually healing. That's not something you can trick yourself into. If you go through a process and you actually get your body back to where you feel like you're going to have the energy for things and you're feeling like basically you have more confidence in your system to not crash, then you start having more of a foundation to like build a future on, right? But at first, when that starts blurring down, we need to carve that back out so you don't lose that. You may have to write it down. Okay, that's really important. Then the next thing I would do is I would start to look at all the things that are inside my own control, right? What's affecting me? What's making me healthier and what's not? And the first thing I would start with is actually what's holding me back and what's hurting me. Because if you can get rid of the things that are pushing you backwards, that's actually going to create a bigger impact than trying to push yourself forwards. I know this sounds crazy, right? But this is the whole thing with, in sports, especially tennis. There was a book on this about tennis, but especially tennis, but all sports basically, you can try to get more points, right? Or you can just try to stop making mistakes. Okay, so if you stop losing, right, versus try to win, sometimes if you just work on not losing, not getting pushed backwards, you can actually just kind of stay where you are. And that gives you some time, right, to then start to advance. But if you're constantly just getting pushed backwards, it's like another metaphor would be like swimming against the current, right? Now you got to swim twice as hard, or you could just go swimming at a different time of day when the current's going the way you want to go, right? So with your body, with your health. If I was bedridden or things were getting bad for me, which things have been bad for me, but which I've shared in other videos, this isn't really about me and my particular life, but just so you know, I have been there in some capacity. I've had some really weird stuff go on. But the first thing I would do is start to look at, okay, what are all these things that are working against me? And in terms of categorizing that, I would look at things like my environment, right? So for one, take a look around your house, or if you have an office or any other building that you spend a significant amount of time in, right? Or if it was my kid having this, I would be looking at the school, right? What's that environment like? You can also look at your car, your vehicle, any place where you spend a lot of time. Is there water damage? Is there mold, right? You might want to get that stuff tested. What's going on here? What am I getting exposed to, right? What kinds of chemicals and compounds? Is there stuff coming off of the paint, right? Is this carpet funky? Is there lights that are junk light that are affecting my nervous system? I would start looking at all this environmental stuff. What's going on with the electromagnetic weather in my environment, right? Am I right next to a 5G tower just blasting signals into my head, right? And am I summoning those signals by looking on my phone all the time with a 5G connection? These kinds of things. I would start looking at all the things that work against me in my environment. I would look at my foods. What's working against me in my foods? I would look at my relationships, my stressors, excuse me, like what I'm doing at work, if I have work, or what I'm doing at life or with my family or whatever it is. And how are people treating me in my relationships? Are there people who call me who, when I see their name come up on my phone, I feel like an adrenaline rush or an aversion, right? If I see that gut reaction, I see somebody's name and I'm like, oh, I would start to note all of that. What's working against me? I would try to look at my posture, right? How's my bed set up? Is my bed set up in a way where I'm actually comfortable when I'm laying there, or am I on a pillow with my neck all jacked up all night because I didn't take the time to sort out my sleeping situation? I have another video on pillows, by the way. You should look that one up if you have a literal, take a few minutes and literally look at your pillow and make sure you're not screwing yourself up, right? But there's also a deeper lesson in that video too. It's about becoming the kind of person who makes those adjustments, who takes charge, right? So you can find that on my channel. And look at all these things, right? I'd also start to look at not only those things affecting me, but what I'm doing, how I'm living, and go, okay, am I staying up too late? Am I waking up too early? Am I saying yes to too many things? What are my behaviors? Where do I put myself? Do I get outside in nature at all? Do I go out there and I'm underdressed, meaning I'm always getting cold from the wind, right? Or I'm walking around in bare feet all the time in a cold beach or something. Am I getting a lot of cold here and there? What can I do to offset that, right? All these things, I would start to look at what are my behaviors and what's working against me. And that's all before I start adding stuff. This isn't go grab a stack of B vitamins and, start taking vitamin D and all that. This is before I add anything. I'm looking at what's working against me and what can I control. Okay. And remember, I carved out my future. It's important. You need to do this stuff. And sometimes there is a cost of healing where we have to stop doing something that, we maybe want to do, but that's actually causing so much damage in our body that's preventing us from getting to the actual future we really want to do. So it's important. Now I would get really clear on making these rankings and trade-offs and what's the most important thing to me. There's a lot of mental work and a lot of soul searching. And that's what happens when your body's starting to shut down, right? Where your battery's getting low. You're getting put in a situation where you have to make hard decisions because you don't have energy and time for every single thing. And you have to figure out strategically what you say yes to, what you commit to. And is that going to feed you or is that going to block you from getting to your actual future, even though it looks good or like something you should do in the moment? So I'd be looking at all those things. And that's before adding anything, right? Then the next thing I would do is get into the Modern Vitality Solutions and Support Group. Honestly, there's nothing else like this, right? This video is about things you can do at home by yourself, right? And we also have a group, obviously, right? I'm running a group. It's fantastic. Of course I believe in it. I'm extremely biased, right? I think it's a wonderful place to be. But if you're suffering and struggling and you're doing those things, right? Carving out the future you want, like what's worth living for, and you're starting to get your head around some of the things that have to go that are blocking you, right? Why not have company? Why not be able to ask me, Jeremy, personally, right? Anything you want and get my perspective where I can try to help guide you with like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you considered that? Here's something that's worked in the past for other people just like you, right? Sometimes these small little changes, if you do enough of them, they add up to something that's just massive. So that's what we're doing in our group. I'll tell you more about our group later, but that's something to consider is having community, right, around you. You don't have to join my group, but if you can find community of other people, because what happens then, all right, here's what happens. You carve out the future you like, you're inspired, you're motivated, and then you start seeing things that you're like, hey, all this stuff's working against me. And then you try to stop doing that, and now you're weird, right? Because a lot of it's cultural. A lot of this stuff's normal for our culture, which doesn't mean it's healthy for you. But you stop doing it, and then you get weird, and now you're like alone. So if you can get around other people who understand what's going on with you and feel a sense of community, that will help you follow through on some of these changes you have to make in your life to get better results. It's really interesting. The people we hang around with, they bring us up, or they bring us down. Depends on the kind of people. So you need a strong community. And once you have that, you can start implementing changes and taking things out of your life that are hurting you or harming you. And then maybe now we're like kind of treading water, not swimming against the current, right? So now we can start moving forward. And sometimes you do add things. Then it's like, all right, yeah, I want to take some supplements. I want to start working on some nutritional things where I'm eating different kinds of foods that are more nutrient dense, right? That kind of stuff added in, right? But the first thing is get the junk out if you can. And sometimes we have to do it as a fade, right? Like take out some junk, add some good things, take out some more junk, add some more good things. That's normal too, right? Because we're human, we're not perfect. We can't just like turn off our old life and turn on our new one overnight. So having a process like that, that's what I would do. I would start to architect my long-term plan and strategy for how to phase myself through stages of healing, what that looks like in terms of what needs to go and what needs to come in at each stage, and then stick to the plan. And then once I hit a wall, I would work on, okay, so something didn't happen as expected. How do I interpret that result as feedback to guide my next decision, right? These are the things we're working on in our group, by the way. I've got a vault full of interactive videos that'll help you get your fingers on your own pulse and figure out all these things going on with you so that you can start to make a list, right? And check it twice and go on there and find out everything that you might want to change and then start to prioritize it so you're not getting overwhelmed, feeling like you got to change every single thing at once, right? There's power there. You just have to organize it so you don't get overwhelmed and don't shut down. Because some things will give you more leverage than others, right? Like if you live in a moldy house, getting out of that environment is massive, compared to like, okay, well, I'm going to cut out gluten for a week and see how that goes. Yeah, that can be important too. But if you're actively inhaling mycotoxins all day long, you got black mold in your ceiling right over your head where you're sleeping, stop poisoning yourself first, right? That's pretty important. Just like if your foot was stuck in a bear trap, that's even more important than the moldy house, right? You got to organize things in terms of severity and what needs to happen first, right? And everything like that can kind of fit into this ordered structure. That's the kind of work we do. So your application, if you'd like to join our group, it's free to join as a guest. Your application's in the description below this video. And if I see your application that looks really good, like you'd be a great fit for our community, I will get you in as soon as I can, I promise. Might be a couple of weeks, might be a couple months. I don't know. I keep the group small so that I can know who I'm talking to. And when you ask for my advice or my perspective, I can give you some ideas based on your actual case, which is really helpful. I think most people enjoy the personal touch. And of course, we've got a great community of international people who are very positive and very kind and understand what it's like to start to give up some of these things in our culture that are normal but not healthy, right? So you don't have to feel like a weirdo. You can be in a good community that's all forward focused and positive people. In the meantime, you might consider subscribing to this channel, hitting the like button on this video, and why you do that is so you can start training the algorithm, right? So the internet doesn't just show you whatever. You can train these things to show you important stuff like this video, things that'll help you get your life back, but you do have to actively participate a little bit. Sometimes it just means clicking a bell, right? Okay, I hope this helps you. Let's get you feeling better. Cheers.